Had a great stay at the Burney Motel, super hiker friendly. And we're getting a ride back to trail from someone who's staying here as well. Hello, it's September 12th, day 55 on trail. Hiking out of Burney today. Yesterday, September 11th, we spent mostly in town, recharging, getting our next resupply in order. We stayed with Frank and Kelly, small motel. It's well timed. We actually got to watch the final of the US Open between Alcaraz, Casper Ruud. It's really neat to see them after the final acknowledge the importance of September 11th. Even as a Spaniard and a Dane, respectively. Walked out again here. Walked by a little hydroelectric plant, and the man delivering the Schwann's truck gave us popsicles. Just getting lucky. Climbing up what's known as the Hat Creek Rim here under cloudy afternoon skies. I did hear a little bit of thunder in the distance for a couple hours, but it seems to be moving away from us. From what I saw the forecast before leaving today, only predicted a chance of rain from 4 to 7, so we are in that window, but haven't felt any rain yet, and hopefully the thunder stays off in the distance. Sometimes I think we have interesting contraptions to make our fence work at home. Overlooking a little green oasis down in this extremely arid valley. I think that is the small town of Hat Creek, from what I can tell from Google Earth, but it's so isolated, and it's really odd to see area of green and all that brown. Morning. It's Tuesday, September 13th, day 56 of the hike. We camped up on Hatfield Rim last night, which is one of the longest dry stretches of the entire trail, actually. So there's almost 30 miles with no natural water sources. So we stayed next to what's called Cache 22, which is basically a large water reservoir maintained by a local for the hikers. So that kind of breaks the section up into two. It's nice to get water last night and water this morning. Today's an interesting day, finishing up Hatfield Rim hike with views of Lawson National Park and down into the valley. We have a couple things on the docket, so we're going to go by an area that is not part of the national park, I don't think, but a very visited area with lava tubes. So large, like caves, they're called the subway caves, are lava tubes from some previous volcanic activity. And then later in the day, we'll be going through a tiny little area near the trail called Old Station, which I believe has a gas station. So we'll probably get to grab a bite to eat there before we finish out our day. Very end of the day, we're gonna reach the edge of a previous burn called the Dixie Burn, or the Dixie Fire. The Dixie Fire was the most destructive fire in the history of the PCT, so I don't know how many tens of thousands of acres it burned, hundreds of thousands of acres maybe, who knows, but it left about a 90-mile scar on the PCT. So there are some sections of living forest scattered throughout that 90-mile section, but the majority of it's a burn area. Got to a little trailhead here with a clean pit toilet, trash can, picnic table. We're gonna have a midday snack, and I'm enjoying Just a throwback to the AT, but there's a McDonald's in Burney. Packed out 3 McDoubles. I wish I would have packed out more. They keep for multiple days in my experience and don't taste any different. That's a little scary, but at the same time, they're pretty darn good out here. Unfortunately, there's haze in the horizon again. There's a fire near Tahoe, so I imagine smoke's being blown from there. But had a great overlook here, looking over the Hat Creek Valley. Typically you can see Shasta to the north, and you can see the vague silhouette of Mount Lawson to the south.
You ready to get your cool on? Your chill on? So
Heck yeah! I'm going into some lava tubes called the Subway Cave. Apparently it's like 46 degrees through the whole thing. This is going to be a nice escape. We'll get our headlights on. Headlamps. Ooh. Oh, these are huge. I didn't realize this was going to be so massive. You could drive a car through this. Reading this informative sign on lava tubes, but just so happens a favorite part of this informative sign happens to be big potato, but I think it's actually pronounced butte, but that's definitely the best part of the sign. Oh yes. Found a for real on trail. The banana. It's Wednesday, September 14th. Day 57 of the hike. So we're entering our 4th national park. Sadly, a lot of this park burned in last year's Dixie fire, which was the most destructive fire on trail, and I think one of the most destructive fires in recent history. So I think a lot of the forest is burnt through Lawson National Park. There's still a few things should be pretty neat to see. There's a geyser, hopefully active over there, we should see today, and some really pretty lakes. But otherwise, we're expecting multiple days of walking through Burn area. It's cool backcountry. Park ranger station here, not being used at the moment, but neat spot. There's a privy here I was hoping to use, but it is dysfunctional. Really pretty lake here in Lawson National Park called Lower Twin Lake. Like most of the trees, looks as though most of the trees around the edge of this lake escaped the burn. It's still a really pretty spot. If the thermometer on my pack didn't read 58 degrees, consider a swim, but I prefer not to be freezing. So it's kind of like we're in Yellowstone here in Lawson National Park. This is a geothermal pond. You can see the steam coming off of it. I can actually feel the heat blowing towards me from the surface of the pond. You're not allowed to go beyond this point, but there's a loop that goes around the lake, so I'm gonna walk around and see if I can find any more informative signs about it, but I can imagine it's very hot. You can see the surface is actually kind of bubbling and boiling at different places, and the steam is just coming off in all directions. Really cool, kind of Mars-like. Bubbling thermal pool. waters here. For sure it's very hot. I don't think I need to touch this water to know it's hot, seeing it literally bubble and boil like that. So this is called Terminal Geyser, still within Lawson National Park here. It's not really a geyser, but apparently it's a geothermal steam vent. So it's really pretty awesome. A little bit different than the boiling spring lake. So it seems like there's a lot of energy escaping in the form of hot water and steam here. There's even a little bit of an outlet down here where there's some water flowing out of it. Here I'm curious how warm the water is, so I'm gonna go down and feel it. Oh yeah, it's very hot. Well beyond hot tub temperature. I think you'd definitely burn yourself pretty badly if you submerge yourself in it. I'm sure it's even hotter right where it comes out of the source. Sometimes people write clever little things on these tags. This one kind of gave me a laugh. Very random, but kind of funny out here. Apparently many locals come and get their drinking water out of this spring. It's just piped off from over here. They say it's some really good tasting pure water, so I'm excited to get this for the last carry of the day. Good job, Kelly. I'm seeing some really nice charcoal art.
I feel like grape would be a lot more commonplace.
Got breakfast in town. Now we're housing more calories and carbs before we get back to the trail. As much as humanly possible is the goal. It's Thursday, September 15th, day 58 on trail. We successfully were able to hitch into Chester. Actually, we didn't hitch. We had to call a local trail angel for a ride. Really nice guy named Mike. His son hiked the Appalachian Trail on the PCT in the last 2 years. So he considers this kind of paying it back for all the help his son got while he was on trail. So he took us into town. We got breakfast, did a quick resupply, and we're back out on trail by noon. We can do 18 more today. Next couple days are gonna be broken up kind of nicely. Should get to a little town called Belden, which isn't even really a town. It's like a resort tomorrow night. Hoping to get some food there, and then the next day should bring us into Quincy, where we are probably planning on actually spending the night doing laundry and things. You can kind of see trees are still burned here. We're in the middle of the big Dixie burn. Our app even removed all the campsites on our guide in this area because it's not the greatest place to camp with all these dead trees. But there's a lot of user commentary on the app to give you advice on the safest places to camp. So I think we've got a good spot chosen for tonight near a spring with some living trees. Gosh, there's a flag and all. What a glorious midpoint. There's not even a living tree to commemorate this point. We are halfway. America. But at least we get to see
Who's in there?
who made it here already. Although a lot of people we've heard have just decided to skip this whole section, so we won't really truly know. So we are officially halfway to Mexico. The halfway point happens to be right in the middle of the burn area. Well, it's just all right. It's just awesome to know that every mile after this, it's ticking past that halfway mark over the top of the curve. So that's exciting. We're going to finish out about 7 or 8 miles today. Within the next 2 days, we should be out of the burn area and really entering the start of this year. Scorched on one side and mostly green on the other. It's crazy how these fires move through forest. This is actually about as high as we've been elevation wise for a while, about 7,600 feet. Here on this ridge, our views were enhanced a little bit by the fire, actually. I think it was kind of like some low scrub bush, but it wiped everything clean. Still hazy. We're getting smoke drifting in from the mosquito fire near Lake Tahoe. But we read the weather, and there's some colder weather with some possible rain forecasted starting this weekend. So fingers crossed, not just for us, but for all of those who've been evacuated from homes, from towns, and are scared about losing their property and possessions. Hopefully that rain comes and quells that fire. I think this rock formation should be called Meerkat Rock. There's a couple little projections that look just like some meerkats sitting in a little colony. Some life in the midst of all the destruction. Who says Northern California isn't pretty?
I thought that was a boring section. It wasn't a road. It was still up in like some alpine meadows and stuff. Huh. It was just like a nice wide like top part though.
There were some cool ridges there, but some of them were kind of
They moose, they moose,
They moose, they moose.
they moose, they moose.
They moose, they moose.
Swimming in the water.
Swimming in the water.
Eating up his supper.
Eating up his supper.
He went to sleep.
He went to sleep.
He went to sleep.
He went to sleep.
Hey moose, hey moose. Hey moose, hey moose. Swimming in the water. Swimming in the water. Eating up at supper.
He
Yeah,
went
he
to
went to
sleep.
sleep.
He went to sleep.
Shark attack! I would do a little while louder.
Shark attack! It's not done yet.
Dead moose, dead moose.
Dead moose, dead moose.
Dead moose, dead moose.
Dead moose, dead moose.
Floating in the water.
Floating in the water.
Got eaten up for supper.
Got eaten up for supper.
He decomposed.
He decomposed.
He decomposed.
He decomposed. Good morning. It's Friday, September 16th, day 59 of the hike. The days are getting shorter, pretty far away from the summer solstice. But I did start pretty early this morning. I started hiking around 5:45. So that's earlier than normal, but it is dark out, obviously. Haven't started when it's this dark out for a while, but at the end of the day, we're going to be coming into a really small mountain town deep in a river gorge called Belden, and we're hopeful that there's a little resort there that might be open and be serving food. So I had the extra motivation to get up a bit earlier than usual to get there in time to ensure if there is a chance for a hot meal, I get it. So if I get there before the others, Frank, Kelly, and Evan, probably order them some food to go. But I think we'll all get there in time. So it's about 30 miles to Belden, a little bit less, maybe 29, I think. We did, including going into town yesterday, we did about 20, a little over 22 miles. So it's cold in the mornings now. I'm wearing my fleece, hands are in my pocket, but I'm still wearing shorts. I don't think it got below freezing last night, but it's starting to get there. So especially once we climb into higher elevations around the Sierras, it'll probably start getting into the 20s at night, below freezing. But I was toasty warm last night. I think it might have got to about 40, maybe upper 30s. So it's not quite bright enough yet for views, but we're starting early morning out here with a nice ridge walk. I already saw a couple deer via their glowing eyes this morning. I even saw a UTV sitting in the middle of the woods, so it must be hunting season or something. Had some coolers strapped to the back, so I imagine that was for if they harvest anything out here. Starting to get a little bit of the sunrise. Amazing viewpoint here. There's access to this via a pretty gnarly dirt road here. This must be a popular vista. Really nice in the morning sunlight. Probably one of our last views of Lawson Peak out here in the distance. When we were walking through Lawson Volcanic National Park, we only really got one window to view it, and I missed it, so it's nice to get to see it again. Here's a nice little piece of evidence of how hot the fire got. It literally melted to some degree. It's a metal placard. Don't usually record during climbs, but I'll give you a little bit of picture of this one. Usually I'm working too hard during these climbs to video or commentate, but I feel there's a fair representation. We're almost on the last climb of today, already at 11 o'clock a.m. The reason being is we descend about, I think, almost 6,000 feet continuously from this point coming up. So it's these little moments, so small. It doesn't seem anything special about it, but they kind of define the course of the day. I guess there's some acknowledgement here. And it is official. It's kind of crazy that you hike 26 miles and technically only traverse 2 ranges, but I guess on the AT you hike 2,200 miles and are in Appalachia the entire time. So I believe there's a geologic reason for the change here. So everything's volcanic north of here, and everything's metamorphic south of here. So no more volcanoes. So I appreciate the name of this this spring here. So this is actually going the opposite direction, up the climb. And I have a feeling it's called Bring It On Creek because of the difficulty of doing that climb in the opposite direction. That was a brutal descent. I honestly cannot imagine climbing it. I think I read some comments in our guide that said that was one of the hardest climbs on trail. So sometimes it pays to be a southbounder. It seems so strange to suddenly come out of the middle of nowhere, and then there's a busy highway, a train, civilization, a river, power lines. Never quite get used to that sudden transition. Crossing the upper fork of the Feather River, where there's a small hydroelectric plant. It seems like we've seen a few of these on trail so far. It's kind of cool that there are so many of them out here in the west. Kind of like I'm walking back in time here. A lot of vintage Americana around. Cool little cabins. Early start. We got the Belden town around 4 p.m. That's probably as early as I've ever gotten. And I'm almost 30 miles in, 29 miles. So it's a good day. Gonna hang out here for a bit and just enjoy myself. Good morning. It's Saturday, September 17th. Day 60 of the hike. We are rolling out of the sack fresh and early and hitting a 5,000 foot climb. Probably the steepest climb of the entire trail so far for us. About 700 feet per mile for about 6 miles. And then a little more gradual towards the end. But working hard bright and early. Started before sun came up. Getting a little bit of a sunrise as we're heading up. Later today, we'll be in the town of Quincy. We're far past due for showers and laundry. I think there's a little dog in a tiny little Belden resort we ate and hung out at last night. That seemed to be a little hesitant around us. I think it was our smell. At least big climbs typically earn big views. This one did just that. My face probably covered in snot. Quite a bit of exertion required here. That feeling of getting to the top really becomes addictive after a while. This is your rush, just like there's documentaries talking about how in a lot of people's lives that necessary rush of serotonin is starting to come from technology and social media. This is the kind of thing, in my opinion, that you want to be the source of your endorphin rush. I know this isn't practical for everyday reality, but something active, something exciting, something new, something real is where you want to derive your motivation from. I think we would have unbelievable views from here, but instead we're getting the haze and smoke from the mosquito fire south of here. Starting to be able to smell a little bit of smokiness in the air. We're still probably about 100 miles north of it, but There's a fair bit of wind today, and it can really blow smoke a long ways. Camp's just so outdated now. I'd be shocked if they had it. Great DVD selection here.